Information leaked from intelligence sources in the West indicated a belief that the Soviets were actually attempting to reverse engineer something not manufactured on this earth. Whether we'll ever know the full truth about the supposed UFO crash in Berezovsky, one thing seems certain. If agents of the KGB or any other branch of the Soviet government did recover parts of a craft made by alien beings, they would have been extremely interested in examining all the materials very closely. No doubt Soviet scientists would have wanted to determine if the parts of the craft were truly of extraterrestrial origin. They would have inspected each piece down to the microscopic level and tested for various physical and chemical properties. And of course, they would have wanted to take advantage of any new technology they could gain from the recovered materials.
И мы не можем расшифровать их физики.
We are unable to solve the puzzle of their physics. Our physics is based on quantum mechanics. Theirs is based on parallel worlds, a different kind of paradigm, a different understanding of history. It is similar to the effect of a TV set or a video camera would produce on people in the time when Pythagoras lived. Pythagoras would not understand it. That is the gap between them and us. That's why, however hard our engineers or technicians would try to decode their technologies, they would fail.
Back in the West, not only did the military consider UFOs a serious subject, but the Soviets' interest in them as well. It seems that, in the beginning anyway, both sides thought that flying saucers were an invention of the other. And that fueled a decades-long campaign of espionage and counter-espionage. Many believe that U.S. intelligence agencies such as the CIA, NSA, and the military have not been completely forthcoming with information regarding extraterrestrials. The same is apparently true of the KGB. Some claim that the KGB, as well as the U.S. government, may have been using the UFO phenomenon as a smokescreen to cover other top-secret activity from the very beginning. Former NASA scientist Dr. Richard Haynes concurs.
Well, all I can say is that there are verified documents from Stalin's time that showed he had an intense interest in Roswell, what was going on in Roswell, New Mexico in about mid-40s. Well, that makes very good sense from the standpoint that that's where our atomic bomb group was, 509th Bomb Group, from which Hiroshima and Nagasaki events happened, ultimately. It's where the pilots trained. So it's understandable that Moscow would be very interested in this subject from that standpoint. If UFOs are a cover, they have been used very effectively by both sides. So it's to the convenience of the Russian government, Soviet government, to continue the charade. It can be considered a form of disinformation.
There is an alternate theory regarding UFO disinformation. Many researchers believe that the government may be intentionally drawing attention to the less credible, self-proclaimed ufologists as a means of lowering the perceived credibility of all UFO research. Alien abductees and conspiracy theorists are most often the least believable, and at the same time, the most visible. Russian rock and roll singer Natalia Medvedeva claims to have known several people that have had contact with aliens.
One guy died, another got paralyzed, the third one became a heroin addict and could not overcome it.
Sergei Borisovich Proskuryakov is a Russian researcher who has studied anomalous phenomenon and pyramidal constructions. His beliefs may also seem unconventional.
When I lived in Minsk, a KGB officer came to see me. He filmed all the documents I had. I couldn't escape anywhere. I believe they ended up in the KGB archive. I have information that my researchers of interest not as much for KGB or CIA as for presidential structures in the USA.
Are individuals like these truly informed? or, as some believe, convenient foils for government agencies with an agenda of suppression. Either way, their outspoken beliefs serve to discourage further investigation and make it much easier to simply write off any UFO account or evidence as nonsense. Most genuine researchers, however, believe it is imperative that all potentially genuine encounters with extraterrestrial intelligence be studied carefully. If something not from this Earth had been recovered, it would have been brought to a classified military base high in the Ural Mountains, where super-secret operations are being conducted since the Second World War. This incredible footage depicts members of the Soviet armed forces and what are believed to be 2 KGB agents inspecting and recovering a crashed flying saucer. Russian author Veniamin Vereshchagin has an idea of the final outcome of this operation.
Насколько мне известно, обломки аппарата.
As far as I know, the debris and their organic parts were taken to Mytishi,
где предположительно были сделаны,
where the apparatus was disassembled, analyzed,
аппарата,
and then back engineered.
Неизвестно, что произошло с органическими
As
останками.
for organic parts,
Но я имею сведения о том, что они были перевезены в дальнейшем
I heard they were taken to Moscow.
для изучения. Но что
What
было
happened
после этого,
afterwards, I don't really know.
His story seems to be backed up in part by one of the people who claims to have been involved in the operation back in 1969. We found ex-KGB staffer Pavel Alexandrovich Klimchenkov living in seclusion in the Bryansk region of central Russia. He remembers the strange wreckage found in Beryozovsky.
At first, everyone believed that those debris were parts of some novelty aircraft manufactured in the United States or England. But having done some measuring and material analysis, we came to the conclusion that none of the domestic or foreign manufacturers known to us could have produced this apparatus, at least not in the conditions existing on this planet.
И вот тогда поступил приказ из Москвы.
It was then that an order came to transport the debris to the base in Mytishi near Moscow.
И вот мне и еще несколько
Together with several other officers, I was assigned to provide safety and security to these materials during their transportation.
In attempting to verify the authenticity of this evidence, we have had the footage and the film itself examined by several experts. We also carefully studied the documents we had procured, which lent further credibility to what we had been told. Among the most telling was this top-secret KGB report specifically referring to Operation Sverdlovsk Midget and describing in detail the recovery operation at Beryozovsky. This document mentions the crashed disc, the organic remains, and the filming itself. There was also this secret order from the Soviet Ministry of Defense requesting assistance from military unit 67527. We looked closely at such elements of the footage as the uniforms and the arm patches worn by the soldiers. These patches seem consistent with the patch worn by such Soviet Army air defense companies as military unit 67527.
They're all wearing winter coats, which don't appear to have much in the way of insignia on them. And that is not out of character for the winter coats. They would generally not contain much in the way of identification. These are all members of the same unit. I can see that the weapons are AK-type weapons. The main battle weapon of the Russian army, even up through today's date, is the automatic Kalashnikov weapon. Yeah, it's clearly an AK, fixed stock, birch stock, no muzzle brake, milled receiver, no question about it. It also seems to be consistent with the muzzles of the weapons that I can see in this film.
In addition, We had notes from the scientific examination of the recovered organic specimen, which seemed consistent with the soundtrack of the dissection footage. With so many elements in seeming consistency, Vereshchagin's story becomes even more tantalizing and perplexing at the same time. Is it possible the Russians actually recovered an alien craft and its occupant 3 decades ago? If members of the Soviet Army had knowledge of a supposed UFO crash, then what happened to these individuals? And if they can't be found today, why not? In the course of our investigation, our goal was to follow every lead, to search for every scrap of information regarding the incident so named Operation Sverdlovsk Midget. The tenuous paper trail we have reconstructed using recovered government documents led us eventually to a lab of the former All-Union Scientific Research Institute of Biology. In attempting to obtain records on the individuals depicted in the dissection footage, we turned up these additional documents. 3 death certificates, all dated March the 24th, 1969, within a week after records indicate the examination was performed. Cause of death for all 3, cerebral hemorrhage. Dr. Ryan told us that the odds of this occurring naturally are next to 0. The former state-run institute is now a private teaching center known as the Moscow Medical Institute. That this is the same facility as seen in the film footage becomes obvious with a comparison of such fixtures as the stonework tables and the distinctive tiling on the floors. The difference is that one-time experimental procedures have been replaced by routine anatomy lessons with plenty of hands-on experience. Secretive operations are now openly administered educational opportunities. But we did find in the basement of the building remnants of this facility's past, reminders of a time when procedures here were not open to the public or subject to public scrutiny. What were the Soviets experimenting on in decades past at the Research Institute of Biology? The answer to that question is still yet to be found. Indeed, many questions about the film footage and the alleged Operation Sverdlovsk Midget remain unanswered. Any extraordinary find, such as the apparent filmed record of a crashed spacecraft, or of what appears to be scientists examining parts of an alien life form, require further analysis. Yet it seems incredible that so many elements of this story from so many diverse sources appear consistent. The original account as told by researchers and witnesses, the recovered documents, and of course, the film. We have to ask, is this footage genuine? And if so, does it represent an actual case of alien visitation, or, as it has been suggested, was the footage created as part of a Cold War disinformation campaign? One other proposed possibility is that it was simply a military training exercise captured on film. Again, if it is a real UFO crash, where are the remnants? And what happened to the body of the alien being? With all that we have unearthed here, the big question seems to be, what is the significance of what are clearly some very profound discoveries? And will we ever know the full story? We hope you've enjoyed visiting Russia with us, and we hope you've gained some insights on what promises to be a continuing source of intrigue and controversy.